A young man is out of breath. This one has just finished its race. Who would have thought that he would be transferred as a secondary character, villainous and big doom in our fantasy world? This is the game in which he spent his life. Previously, he was a player. Our protagonist can observe his reflection in the green of the window. Shouldn't he one day gain Shia proficiency and be feared by all? But why is it in large port? That day, a boy is looking at his desktop screen in the room. The sound of his keyboard is heard, but he ends up looking aside. There is a clock on the wall. It is currently 5:30 a.m. The boy gets up and puts on his bag. As he leaves, he wishes his colleagues a good rest of the day, even if the door is closed. No one seems to be able to get out of this sad situation. The keys are hit one after the other without the employees changing their expression. This guy really went straight home, which surely has something to do with this game, right? It's surprising to see him so desperate. All this for a stupid hobby. The boy returned to his room. Wakfu figurines are stored there. He managed to come home a little early today. The journey between work and home is only 10 minutes. Now, nothing can disturb him, and in this moment, our protagonist seems overwhelmed by a world that extends towards infinity. This one voluntarily let himself be carried away in order to explore this new dimension with beautiful graphics and an action-filled scenario. This new MMORPG saw its popularity explode upon its release. The production company was not known. There was even a period when the game went unnoticed. But with such quality and a large number of added contents, it gained popularity very quickly. Every self-respecting gamer has heard about it, the boy making little progress. But a strange creature is right behind him and, damn, he had to hurry to leave, so he's saved in a weird place. The monster is about to hit him. The boy smiling finds himself confessing something. He too is totally addicted to it. After a few hours of play, the player is rather out of breath since the next update is at 6 a.m. It is really advantageous that his work ends at 5. To be honest, he chose his job just for that. And especially when it comes to this day, it's impossible to miss this event. After all, he was chosen as beta testers for the next big update. Obviously, he will be rewarded if his results are positive for a Nexus player, but not for him. Impossible to contain his excitement. But it's still a little early, but it's better to go straight there. The player materializes again. The area that will soon become the center of sport. The boy thought he had arrived early, but a player notices that his friends are also here. The event will probably just be some kind of skill boost. The king is weird. Better not to be around them too much. The boy watching realizes that his hand is shaking. Would he be nervous? He knows this feeling very well. Collecting beta tester rewards is essential. Everything will be fine. He's strong enough. Victory will come to him, no matter how much ordinary players cooperate. They are still ordinary, but the testers are different. They are the small number of players capable of foreseeing the future as a dungeon explorer. All these hours of care will finally bear fruit. Everything is at stake now, but everything will be fine. He is not a normal player. It is currently 6 a.m. Regardless of the purpose of the event, the boy notices something. Its eyes are large, open, and strangely, a shadow covers the entire canyon. Here we are back in the real world. Our protagonist wakes up. The rays of the sun illuminating his window have just brought him back to reality. But the boy doesn't say anything. Once he leaves home, his daily journey can begin again. Here he arrived in front of his building. The sound of the keyboard is heard. This guy isn't acting a little weird. His behavior isn't weird. He's the weird one. He always comes home on time. In his home and on his desk, there are compromising figurines. The colleague understood what he meant. It's like he's not even desperate anymore. He just gave up. Didn't he get tired of his game? Well, he keeps going home. So several weeks have passed since the event. His memories at the center of the game resurface. In conclusion, this event was pure hell. A large dragon suddenly fell and wiped out 10% of the players. And without waiting, he started attracting large laser beams randomly, even while trying to counterattack. His tough skin prevents him from receiving too much damage after sacrificing half of the participants. The dragon was finally defeated, but that was only the prologue. The whole area collapsed at once. From this moment on, you have to find a way to escape the death game without forgetting the time limit. An alarm sounds behind the wall. There were also instant death traps. Other protagonists stand in front of a minotaur who is about to crush him. The impact was so powerful that nearby players were knocked back. The boy concentrates his strength and strikes the creature with a great blow with his sword to disarm it. He now attacks in order to get closer quickly, but the monster is sliced. To his great surprise, he collapses in front of our confused protagonist. The player lands in front of the creature, which evaporates. His gaze shifts towards the author of this attack. This is a female player who happened to be here. The only thing you can count on is luck, and that sort of thing. After finishing off the remaining monsters, the boy rushes towards a tower as he climbs the stairs. He managed to predict the explosion, which allows him to move forward. Our protagonist emerges from the tower triumphant, and his gaze mixes anxiety with silent determination. And as he walks in real life, he starts jumping for joy, yelling that no one would have made it through him. Once he gets home from work, he takes off his jacket before heading to the shower. Then he eats a balanced meal and puts on his gloves. The boy stands and breathes to concentrate. The placement of his feet is optimal. Everything is operational. Let's go! He just received the perfect update email. With that, he will surely have skills. The boy smiled impatiently. A loud notification suddenly sounds. Wow! It was creepy. It was just a probe bug, right? According to what is written when starting the game, he will be transported. Could this be some kind of additional parameters or no, impossible? It's probably just a pretty awkward way of speaking. After all, administrators are really crazy. Our protagonist does not deny the fact that he is also one to take part in their challenge. Better not to think about it too much. A message asks you to choose your character. He has the choice between random and a customized character. This being not very stressful or visibly, choosing a character is not possible. This is probably because it is in beta testers. It's annoying, but you might as well let the game choose your appearance and skills. If he doesn't like them, he can just make them again. Their installation is complete. In this case, it's time to get started. After a short time, his body materializes within this parallel dimension. The boy has just regained his vision. Here he is sitting on a seat, among the other spectators ready to hear the speech. His look is more than surprised. He knows this man. He congratulates the first-year students for enrolling in this academy as a school of adventurers proud of their nation. They have the latest knowledge and the best learning environment. Our protagonist also recognizes this role. This way, they will be able to ensure better concentration and polish the talents of everyone present. The students in front are indeed NEX Opening 2, with its super high-quality graphics. They replaced a few chapters in this big update. Our protagonist has a better understanding, as he expected, of this country's biggest game, but surely this must be a joke. He knows well that this is a game about an X with the best quality compared to its competitors, but all the same, looking in detail, it would not seem that from the series, it is better to calm down. He is the super player of the NEX. First of all, better to collect your thoughts. What is this world? He can already be sure that is change. In order to play it, you need gloves and exclusive glasses. But this time, He can't feel them unless it's in a dream. It seems he was transported. For now, let's assume that this world is a recreation of the Nexus. What happened to his body? To be honest, he has no idea, but he can only come up with two possible reasons. The first is that his consciousness was transported here. The second is that his entire body was replaced by this one. It doesn't matter which one it is if he can't log out. Understanding will be impossible. The way to disconnect from humans after entering the classroom. The only thing he can do is wait for the story to progress. And finally, does he really want to go home? And so the commentator announces the end of the opening ceremony. After that, there will be a call to return to their classroom. The students are asked to return in a row. Now it's the class's turn. Our protagonist therefore imagines that it is his. Among the 5 classes, the one he is in seems to have the lowest status. But he figures it's still better than being constantly mistreated by the arrogant upper-class types. Outside, the rainy weather echoes in the center of the school playground. The boy is now going up the stairs. Does he really want to return to his old world for things like working and paying rent? He has many reasons to return. On the other hand, becoming superpowered within this world would be great. Her biggest dream is to interact with her favorite character, not to mention the fact that the main character and most of the heroines are enrolled in this class. In other words, the conditions in which he was transported were favorable. There is also a chance that his previous body is no more, even if he can't log in when he reached the class. Enjoying this world would be much more pleasant than in his own if he finds it on his way home, so he will have to think about what to do during this moment. But still, something is strange. Why does he lose his breath so quickly? As expected, stares at this great high school. But what is this body? He knew that face. This guy constantly approached one of the heroines with very doubtful expressions. Then he also persecuted the main character for getting too close to her. Finally, he was forcibly expelled. It was none other than the antagonist from the beginning of the game. He did it again or later, and his nickname is Rather, isn't it? This 100-kilo body is already in the beginning and end. Single-handedly, a girl asks what this guy is up to. His friend imagines that this guy couldn't stand the stairs. The heroine that Buto approached was named Isekai'd. This girl is none other than the champion of the National Kendo Tournament. His academic results are very high. She therefore excels in sports and in school. She is beautiful and intelligent at the same time. Plus, she treats us as people differently. Finally, Alex Tao. The most annoying thing is that this guy was already starting to ogle him from the opening ceremony. During the opening, she already hates him when going up the stairs. Not to mention the fact that Tao isn't even the main character's rival. Even our protagonist has no attachment to this character. He is not only forced into an obstacle at the start of the game, a secondary, unpleasant character. He really shouldn't have chosen at random. After this moment, Isekai'd will become the core of the main character's plot, as well as an essential person for the rest of the class, since Kaoru already hates him. Better not to do anything suspicious. A pain seizes him. What is that? He feels strange, but it doesn't seem to come from his own emotions. It's as if another person inhabits his body. Perhaps Tao's memories and feelings remained. The boy is pretty stressed. The problems seem to be piling up. Continuing to think is no use staying like this. The stress will drive him crazy. For now, it's best to hurry up and get into the classroom. Plus, there's always a chance he could disconnect anyway. The fact that he was transported here in the first place, this place, is certainly no longer the game he knew. Now that he is Tao, the scenario of Dune X will change. He should just make sure he gets along well with Kaoru. This will take a weight off his shoulders. You can tell he's pretty proud of this genius idea as he walks into the room. A girl seems to meet his gaze. She observes him in the same way as the disturbed boy. The girl remembers the events from earlier, so she glares at him. It would seem that getting rid of this weight would be extremely complex. In other words, his first transportation to another world. His second life? That of starting the game of an X once again, after countless previous attempts will begin now. Our protagonist stands at the entrance to the classroom. The girl's gaze is still on him, but in reality, she doesn't care about his presence. This is why Kaoru decides to stop paying attention to him. The boy has tears in his eyes, so she really hates him. But wait a second. School seat placements are based on grades. That's why he can't sit anywhere defined. But wait. Is it at the bottom? He is in the class, and at the very back. In other words, he's the worst in school, right? For starters, the Adventurer School entrance exam is 100 times harder than the others. It's a high school for the super elite. Our protagonist doesn't know how Buto fared, but he managed to win against this terrifying exam. Just to get drafted here is incredible. So he should show more confidence. A person comes closer. Someone just opened the door. The boy watches. A man walks towards the teacher's office, putting down his notebook. He asks everyone to sit down to begin. He will first talk about himself and the school. The class dunce listens attentively to Muriel Hajime, a former student of the school. He introduced himself briefly before explaining everything they need to know about the school so far. The Gen X scenario progressed without problem, or even if it did, seeing all this in real life does not constitute the same density of information. Our protagonist can feel the weight of the wall's words. It's as if he was a soldier before he was a teacher. The anxiety of his comrades is also visible. Great tension has arisen within the class. But obviously, that's how things are supposed to be when talking about the adventurers of this world. It is a promising profession and considered prestigious in this country. The term adventurer was given to people allowed to descend into dungeons, and exactly like the center of this school. The competition within this profession is also very complex. Just being a student at this school has its own privileges. The information given by this former student is clearly useful to him, who has only just arrived in this world. It all doesn't really seem real yet, but to be honest, he already knew most of his instructions. However, if he can't return for a while, he's going to have to seriously think about his career here, as expected from an elite school. The option to stay here is always possible, but many companies also scout for promising items, as students go into dungeons, as are to begin with. Gen X got its name from this simple fact. They used dungeon crawls as learning themes. It was necessary to put an emphasis on dungeons in order to sell the game, whether they were apprentice adventurers or not. Nothing stops them from learning on the job. In the world of Gen X, resources collected from monsters help power the energy industry. For companies that wish to progress on dungeon research, this school is none other than their hunting ground for the future. Our protagonist would like to explore the dungeons aggressively, but Muriel explains that they will have to work with their friends to progress smoothly through the dungeons. This is also why they have classmates. Seizing the opportunity to get to know future talented colleagues is a blessing for everyone. Good now that they step forward like parents when they say their name and finally Narumi. The boy nods, taking what was given to him. Or now that it's said, if he can return to his previous world, then his worries were for nothing. This terminal looks like a wristwatch. This is the menu of the NX7, a device with the same functionalities as a mobile phone, in addition to having multiple options related to this world. It is possible to view the current status of the player and, more importantly, log out. The boy is suddenly surprised. His status window appears. His name is Narumi Saw, and he is not yet registered with adventurers. His life points are 7. This is to his credit. His strength is 3, his intelligence is 9, his speed is 4, his agility is 5, and his defensive magic is 11, his level is 1 and his job is noob. Damn, he's starting to get used to it. Please let him go. The boy observes the window and moves closer to inspect a creation. In fact, little by little surface. Obviously, there is no disconnect function. Meanwhile, in the billiards class, the teacher wishes them a successful student life. That's all for today. A boy is lying on several chairs. A voice asks to excuse him. What? What's the matter? How long does it have to stay like this until it wakes up? Stupid. His rank is the lowest after all, but he should relax because he will soon be leaving to help the class. After that, our protagonist is slumped on the table. It's true, he can't go back. It doesn't matter if he can't return home. He always dreamed of coming into an ex's world, anyway. But since he was transported as a Buto, on the other hand, a detail caught his attention on his character sheet, the gluttonous skill. He has played NEX since his student days, even after he became an adult. His playing hours did not drop even after participating and winning the game's horrible event. Even he doesn't know this skill. Having an A ability from the start is pretty rare, and when it comes to good skills, people want them, even if they make the one they already have laugh. But for this gluttonous ability, our protagonist has no idea how to use it, judging by the name. It must represent being able to eat a lot of food. Did he get it just for being fat? He would like to hurry up and learn new ones and replace this one, since he can't go back. Either way, he wants to go to a dungeon as quickly as possible. A group of scum has just entered the classroom. The students notice their arrival. It is pathetic. Of style. They should listen to him carefully. This guy is from Class D. His name is Korea Isamu. He will now choose someone from among them. All of them, and this person will become his subordinate. Let everyone show off their status and skills. But a voice interrupts him. Kaoru just got up from his chair, suddenly came here and chose subordinates like this. Even if they are classmates, it doesn't mean they are in his service. The boy is surprised by her interrupting him. If it doesn't make sense to begin with, who could it possibly make sense? His class isn't supposed to be just a little above. The speaker of the scum is getting closer. And you? Did you really believe that we were equal outside of class? We've been here since middle school. We've been exploring dungeons for 12 years. Compared to all this mockery on 2 levels. Their status is literally different. Showing the terminal is not a request, it is an understood command. After his words, pressure takes the students by surprise. This feeling is energy emanating from his eye. This is enough to make Kaoru tremble. This one has difficulty keeping calm. Obviously, his comrades do not dare to say a single word. Is that all? Are there always people ready to complain? If not, let them show their terminal. Laura, this can only be used in places like dungeons. For those with a lower level, this results from intimidation, especially when it affects monsters. So that's what it feels like to be the first to be targeted. What is he? Yeah, you there, the big one. You're the one sitting on the school chess chair. They will see at the terminal first. The bastard just called him a big teddy bear. Wouldn't that be projection? Has he never had a mirror in his life? Oh, hurry up. Do you have to lose your fat or what? And these are the insults he was expecting. The shark? He lets out a sigh. What is that? His status is shattered. But she is incapable. Nobody needs him in skin. We move towards his face. But our protagonist withdraws. Those were only in his mind. Better to act like the big guy he's supposed to be. At least he was able to confirm the weakness of his statistics. After that, several students pass by. Korea, Isamu watches them and begins to smile at the next one. Hey you. A female voice immediately nods. This one doesn't know what to say. What's his name? These are just short. Oh! Well, for now, let her show him her Shinjuku co-terminal. With the nickname Pink-chan, she is one of the heroines of the NEX. She is also a playable main character. From his perspective, it is possible to follow the main character's path. She is one of the reasons why NEX has been so successful. Oh! Its level is 1. As expected, and honestly, his skills are bizarre. But hey, since she's cute, special treatment will be given to him. She will join the SAM group. I don't know what to answer, and that's fine while everyone else is paralyzed by the big power difference. Even if all the students in the class will not be able to perhaps carry, by joining forces in the open field, will not be brought by city. The girl shyly walks away. What is this look? She should be happy. A boy who grabbed her wrist claims that she obviously doesn't like the treatment he's getting. This is the moment when the main character appears. The boy stands, and his look conveys his determination. What? What do you mean she doesn't like it? What is his problem? His name is Akagi. He will soon be the strongest in his school. Or at least he hopes so. Kaoru observes him without understanding. Korea opens her eyes. Is this guy serious? You should learn to know your place. A person comes closer and addresses this courageous little one. Immense pressure is put on Akagi, and this spills over to all the students around. They cannot pronounce a single word. Kaoru also suffers the effects. He's just a guy who doesn't know what a real adventurer is who stopped showing off. His friend says it's normal. The students in the class do not yet know the customs here. That's true. What does he think of the delay in me? He will personally test his claim as the strongest student in a duel, obviously, with safety rules. Even if he loses, he won't die. There are a large number of guys as strong as monsters here. If they can't beat him, how can he think he can beat the others? Is he wrong? The boy answers no. He accepts his challenge. These meaningless words cannot be understood by his stunned comrades. And obviously, his interlocutor is on the verge of exploding. The scum who are leaving announced our bags. Guillaume, who will remember it in the hope that they are mentally prepared for the loss of an arm. Students run to a notebook saying it's amazing. His comrades think he is really respectable. They will do anything to encourage him. The shy girl thanks him for his help. No, it is nothing. He was going to confront him in any case, a noble person like him. Kaoru wanted to become that kind of adventurer. The reason why she was enlisted here is because she has always admired this kind of personality. But at the same time, it was also to get away from this guy from her fiancé, Narumi Sawada. A little earlier, the girl who turns around doesn't speak to him. Why walk so far from her? Sorry, it can't go any faster. She much preferred him when he was still a child. He was a little scared, but was much more honest than now. He always showed her a genuine smile when she was approached by other guys. He was intervening to protect her. Now he is just a shadow of his past self. Getting away from him was one of her main sources of motivation for taking the entrance exam. During this period, in their native village, a letter arrived at Kaoru's house. The girl looks at the envelope in surprise. This one collapses after reading the content. The girl starts to smile, but wait, what? Like he just said. Buto was also accepted into the adventurer's school. His next 3 years will be great. On board, it's great, and he can't believe it. This guy who's chasing him managed to get into the adventurer's school. After this call, the girl begins to think. His hostage's family is a general store. Her parents and her little sister Mignon are often worried about her. Surely he hasn't done anything illegal in his life considering he worked hard to get drafted here. Maybe an opportunity to see it in a new light. A person begs her. Could Kaoru learn some sword moves to match him? His parents know he's bothering her, but he begs her to help him. she finally accepted that or asking him directly from time to time. But refusing his parents was not possible. They always treated her with great care, and she felt indebted to them too. She wanted to do it as a reward for passing her exams. The former host of her body now goes jogging with her. Kaoru wonders how much effort they put into his training. Even his height managed to impress him until they started training. He did not limit his food. He doesn't know how to get up early. Even though he gets up and starts running, the boy asks if he could stop since they will gain stamina by gaining levels either way. All this is useless, but from level 4 it will become more complicated. Training is important, but he can also do it after progress. It's just annoying. And also, he worked so hard at the last minute to get accepted into the adventurer school. Why should he go through this again? What he does is of no use. To be honest, Kaoru thinks that achieving acceptance there is incredible. But if anyone tries to argue against those with higher grades in this way, the school will not take this affront lightly. The girl apologizes to him. She makes sure to follow his pace, so she might as well start again sooner or later. Must surely imagine she would say something like that, because she always acted that way. His behavior is surprising because he passed the entrance exam. This boy became like this because of her. In any case, it makes sense. But maybe Kaoru should change his way of thinking. The reason he thinks he probably has so many loopholes, and probably his fault. She should have anticipated his change in behavior. This is the result of staying in your comfort zone. In this case, he only has one option left. Kaoru understands better. She'll just leave him behind. The girl then resumes her run and decides to leave her past behind for good, even though it breaks her heart as she leaves. The voice of the boy, who does not understand, can be heard, but she does not deign to turn around. Kaoru's fingers rest on the table. The girl got up from her chair and is looking at the person behind her. If only some had courage like him, our protagonist took his leaves. Once the class is over, and he is about to get up too. But a voice speaks to him, which attracts his attention. Kaoru looks at him with a contemptuous look. What's his problem today? What? The girl's arms are crossed. Why? Doesn't he say that? Or just remember that he has to do something important today? So he apologizes. Kaoru doesn't really understand. Okay, it's been 2 weeks since training started and TD has shown no signs of improvement. He didn't try to progress on his own, so he might as well stop seeing him altogether. She only moves on for promising her parents her love for him, and completely leaving. That's why she has to level up as quickly as possible, hanging around with her Yuta to accomplish nothing concrete and isn't worth it. Before she does that, she'll need to solve her biggest, hardest problem as quickly as possible. The reason she and Saudi are engaged is through a magically written marriage contract. So this writing does not exist. Impossible to completely reject it. Soon, he will start to be attracted to her body. He might even order her to do things in December, before it happens. She needs to clear this contract as quickly as possible, and maybe she will get to know this boy better. That where? You can't understand his behavior after going to adventure school. As a player, he will be able to visit the house of the heroine Kaoru, and as he goes there, something catches his eye on the way his family's famous store. It is normal that this arouses his curiosity. He really walked in nonchalantly. He feels strange entering a house he doesn't really know. But technically, it's his. Error at SA or has already returned home. Our protagonist didn't expect it. The little sister welcomes audition. Oh my god, there's no mistaking it. It's definitely Narumi's house SA or Ta or tell me, it should be. There's this nostalgic, strange feeling since he walked in here. This is surely the consciousness of Buto. In other words, these two resplendently designed characters are part of his family. This information was not in the game. This world is full of missing items. This could be a problem. The advantage he is between players could prove to be useless. Under these conditions, our protagonist quickly goes to a dungeon. He would like to test something, but the details surprise him. The boy lost his balance. Something almost tripped him. It was because of the bottle he just stepped on. The boy looks with disgust at garbage, lying everywhere on the ground. Better to clean everything up for now. It's still strange. He vaguely knows the location of the objects here. Our protagonist initially thought Tao's feelings were a nuisance, but he imagines that's not the case. This memory of things remains rather useful. It is possible that he will be able to remember every detail of the former host's life, her body as much as he wants, over time. After all, he lived a life before the opening of the game and Keiru's strange invitation to pique his curiosity. In any case, the boy is now holding a strange book found on the ground. He saw this while he was cleaning. Would be without magic contract? It's between him and Keiru. No matter how you look, it only looks like a child scribbles. Just for this detail, the boy counts on Buto to provide him with answers. Is that right? He can't remember much, but at least he had a pretty vague image. It seems important, so it's best to take it just in case. Now he's finally finished cleaning, so we might as well leave. Head to the dungeons. The boy apologizes. He would like to register. The receptionist looks at him for a second. All right. Does he have something to identify with? Then the woman apologizes when realizing her status. He's a student at the Adventurer Academy, right? You must put your name and identification here. After that, the woman asks to wait a moment to validate her information. Our protagonist is convinced that she has thought about a guy like him. Thank you for waiting. He can take this. He must take his ticket to the gate there. The boy thanks her. It's now standing in the queue. By observing in more detail, it seems endless. The adventurers are standing in front of the entrance, and this also concerns the new one. His gaze is directed towards the unknown danger that awaits him now. It's no longer funny. This where is standing with his baseball bat. He finally decides and takes the first step. Now he has passed through the portal. The boy looks to the left, but his attention is drawn to something in front. The surroundings are black as he is currently between two connected portals. The other soldiers advance in single file. The second portal is now crossed. Here they are in the middle of a cave surrounded by multiple adventurers. So, this is what it feels like to pass through the barrier between your world and the dungeon. There are a lot of people here. This must be a tourist area. Might as well move on to a more remote place. The boy is walking. We can say that he has progressed. Far fewer people are deep in the dungeon. Something manifests itself behind his back. A gelatinous creature has just appeared and eyes are floating in its center. Our protagonist observes, curious. It's about Slim, the boy who gets down and prepares. This one takes his support and begins to move. The boy lands a big blow on the Slim, and in front of his concentrated gaze. The smoke of victory rises in front of him. A crystal falls to the ground. Our protagonist gradually regains his breath with a reassured air. His first real dungeon, his first, subjugates nation. He's really in the NEX world, but he's at rest. In the center of the starting levels, is too low. He also wants to try something if it's as described on the menu. There it is. It's the Slim's room. They enter this place to merge and become stronger. In addition, the skills remain the same from one monster to another. If he wants to increase the level, no location will be more advantageous. A fly but surprised by the bat hitting the ground, the monster thinks it's human and challenges him to a duel. The boy walks having taken the big one, and as he enters the room, the Slims notice the presence of their new friends. That's why it starts to merge now. A completely different entity has just been formed. The Slim is more than the size of a human, But our protagonist does not deflate and gives him multiple blows in various places. As an NEX player, he always decided to follow his instinct by swinging his bat in all directions. He doesn't even need to think. All his efforts allowed him to advance to level 2. Finally, he leveled up. The boy feels something strange. Wow! Wow! So, it's the feeling of increasing your stats following a level up. It could almost make him addicted. It's not to show off, but now he no longer feels inferior compared to the rest of the class. However, this is still weird at the beginner stage. All players use this room as a hunting ground. Why is this location so empty? Well, since he's able to stay here, this place doesn't seem out of bounds. It's perfect for his experiments. The concept of skills also exists within the NEX. The basics are only failing to increase his level will prevent him from using them. There are only 3 exceptions to this rule. The first is the one used by the scum of Class D Laura. The second is the power to produce the torchlight sources. And finally, we come out of minor care. Here are the only skills that can be used directly. This is done with a hotkey. Either it is activated automatically by a movement of the body. The boy reproduces his gesture, must move his body to activate the skills, in this way represents manual activation. Very little difference exists between how this world works and how the game works. After testing manual activation here, it worked fine. Speaking of different, maybe he should try that, right? Our protagonist looks around. He immediately raises his wand and announces the too-hot shock of the void. Here are the results of the dip attack. Yeah, he expected that. He hasn't learned it in the water yet. No way. Sharp shock of the void for me. Wow. At the same time, the obese scum is also exploring the dungeon. They have been carrying out expeditions since the first year of college. Even if their environment may have prepared them for this work as adults, a large percentage risk their lives within the dungeons. You definitely shouldn't stop his training, because after all, he is the second worst in Class D. But that's no reason to be sad. After all, there is always class. People carrying a stretcher asked to be allowed to pass. On this one is our protagonist. A little later, while the nurse's gaze rested on him, he finally opened his eyes. The boy asks where he is. This is the guild's medical office. Obviously, he ran out of magical power and was found unconscious, surrounded by slime, which bothers him deeply. A little later, once out, the boy reflected that because he only got up the next day after entering the dojo, he did not tell him the reason behind the loss of his magical power. For some reason, he activated a skill he hadn't learned. By saying that, she will surely think he is crazy. The player continues walking. Currently, he has 4 from Elbeuf. This body, the fact of being hated by one of the main characters of the story, the memory of Buto which lies dormant within him, and finally his low statistics. And to think that he is preparing to receive a 5th power. The boy announces that he has come home. A meal was prepared especially for him. Enjoy your food. A serious bull feeling hunger, which grips its belly. Our protagonist understands better. This one is sorry, but could he reduce his portion from now on so that the mother has prepared her favorite dish? What could be the problem? His son replies that he would like to go on a diet. For once, he would like to eat vegetables. But his sister is surprised. Is he even capable of it? Since entering the adventurer school, he has paid more attention to his appearance. The father admits that he might look a little big, but his sister thinks he looks perfect like that. Is she blind? Within a month the duel between Korea and Akagi will take place, and the class is surely already shaking. But even passing the Korea event according to the scenario, they will have to prepare for a war on a global scale. So you will have to prepare for that too. Better to increase your level in order to obtain more information about this world. His mysterious transformation, the fact of having become a Buto. The answers are crucial, and in order to get them, his family is currently in an obstacle. A little later, after dark, our protagonist is writing about his transportation. He has no clue yet. The first thing he wants to understand is the activation of the captive nut skill. This shouldn't be possible in the first place, and being able to perform actions not accessible for your level is a good thing. The problem is whether or not other people can do it too. If he is the only one who can do this sort of thing, then there is a chance that he will cause chaos within the game's story. If the scenario differs from the one he knows, it will become an issue. You will have to prioritize your skill training. So he imagines that he will return to the guild tomorrow. The things he wants to do keep piling up. The next day, early in the morning, a hand opens the front door. The mother asks if he is sure he wants to leave today. He may not have recovered yet, but the adventurer replies that everything will be fine. He has already recovered, but his sister's voice is heard. Is he going to the dungeon today? If so, let him take it with him. But the door is closed. As a result, the girl starts to sulk. As he prepares to enter the guild, once again, someone jostles him. Our protagonist apologizes, but wait for him. Oh no, this guy is from Class D. He doesn't want to get involved in their story. The scum asks at this person behind him and his companion. Obviously his sister followed him here. This one tells this stranger that you have to apologize when he pushes someone. How can he consider himself an adventurer without even knowing that? Who did she just say? The protagonist says she should stop, but the students in Class D turn around saying they are pitiful. They don't care about their case anyway. This reaction was unexpected. The guy leaving said to do his best. Ultimately his best according to class standards. They, the boy and his sister, are both happy that things are back to normal. But why is she so relieved? And what is she doing here? It's because they didn't want to let her come. So his sister came of her own accord. He's just a bad guy and idiot. It is only a weak slam where they have become rather annoying. If she ever sees him using his skills, what was that? A horror. The girl says she's also drawn on monsters, who take her to dungeons where she could become a real pot of glue. Well, since she insists so much, why not include it in the guild as a general rule? People under the age of 15 cannot enter. First you'll have to find a way to cheat. Is she thinking about it? His sister imagines he is right. So she's going to leave him for today, hoping he can find a way later. The boy withdraws the insults she threw at him. Well now, he went to the guild bookstore. His reason for coming here is to investigate why his skill activated. One way to cast spells is through auto-casting in the game. This is represented by a hotkey. But how can this work in this world? The other way is manual activation, but that still seems to have too many mysteries for it. First, it will research auto-launch. Our protagonist consults the works on this subject. Apparently, when he uses his magic power, you just have to pray. It's much simpler than he thought. Now let's see what concerns manual activations for advanced level. But do we have a second? There are no inscriptions about automatic launch. Yet he was capable of it. Using these skills that have not been learned may therefore not be normal within this world. As he thought, he might very well be the only one who could do this. Or maybe the existence of this possibility is hidden. Using your own skills is becoming more and more complex. Maybe he'll have to save that stuff for desperate scenarios. The boy raises his head in incomprehension. He doesn't understand what's going on. What could be this world more than strange? But still, aren't there a few too many students from his school in the guild? A voice speaks to our protagonist. What a coincidence. Wouldn't that be the big pile? Do we still have him? The scum just saw the book he was reading. Is this stupid? I don't even know how to cast skills. Finally, if he finally learned, Maybe he can beat and slam this time. What did he just say outside? Our protagonist's little sister is bored, but she hears people talking. This guy was incredibly big. It makes you wonder how it was accepted in the first place. Plus, he got beaten by Slim. If she's not mistaken, her name is Narumi. Something. But the sister who grabs his shoulder asks to tell him more about this. At the same time, in the bookstore, our protagonist wonders what he is talking about, to stop being stupid. He was able to see him 2 days ago on the first floor, which only has slim jeans. He was being transported on a stretcher. His memories resurface. This skill was so powerful that he fainted on the spot and ended up on the ground, surrounded by these insignificant monsters. So it seemed like a defeat from the outside. Oh my god, this is way too much. So what does he think of that? He can't even win against a simple Slim. What does he think about being protected by the boy? We understand better. The class of researchers suffers pain in their service. And since they are ranked second to last, it is obvious that they will draw from within their class. The so-called big pile thanks him, but it will be impossible for the moment. Suddenly, a pressure surprises him. He just used Laura. It only affects him, right? It's not like he forgot. Winning against this guy is impossible. The scum wants to make sure he doesn't refuse. He's less than nothing classy. Saying no to this request is impossible. After all, he's the weakest guy in this room or out of adventure school. It doesn't represent anything. It's like he's sinking into bottomless water. Once again, the problems return for hentai. And as usual, he ends up all alone in the end. Maybe this guy is right. Maybe he's really nothing. The skills he is so proud of? All the knowledge he has towards this world. Maybe it's all worthless in the end. There is no place for him in this school. Was there a single person who didn't want to see him go? There isn't much time left before they have to disappear from this class. Our protagonist knew this. It's that kind of world. He knows it more than anyone. In the large reception room, the rumors of the obese adventurer being beaten in his underwear are spreading. This simple realization brings tears to his eyes. Why does this big pile start crying? The collection calls everyone who observes them this type of pitiful. He would like to disappear. He would like to leave for good, but someone has just stood in the way. Once again, his sister was able to overcome her fear and asks the feverish donors to stay away from her brother. Indeed, the boy has just realized something, even if this world has left him alone. There seems to be something to hold on to. 3 people in particular have always supported him. The boy feels the feelings of the former note of his visible body. There was a place for him, his own home. The girl has now intervened. The student from Class D observes him without understanding. Now the newcomer approaches our protagonist by grabbing his hand. She tells Onyx it's time to go. The boy notices how much she is shaking. But another detail catches his attention. Well, does she really think she can leave like that? It is very rude to interfere in other people's affairs. He was currently talking to his only yawn. I think of his provocations. The girl doesn't flinch. The boy observes him for a few seconds. Is she really serious? The 2 protagonists try to tell him to apologize. But the scum says enough is enough. The attacker now releases his aura into this restricted area. With this, she will be less smart but in detail, attracts his attention. It seems that his sister certainly doesn't intend to let this drag on. So she seriously wants to play it like that. The scum raises his fist. This scene unfolds before his brother's eyes. Sorry, but he's going to teach his sister how to apologize the right way, that rebels are equal. Immediately, the boy tries to interrupt, but a strange feeling grips his stomach. He can no longer think and intervenes in a fraction of a second. The scum didn't expect it, and the protagonist is shocked. His body moved on its own. Could this be the work of horrors, Or were these bastard brothers and sisters still opposing him? Who does he think he is? Behind him, the students are still making fun of this class trash. Despite everything, his sister always intervened to defend him. Our protagonist has understood Buta's feelings, and since that's how he will accept his fate. The boy grabbed his attacker's wrist. This big pig should leave them alone. Now when the victim dared to respond. So that's really what he thinks. Not only Laura's automatic, a realization surfaces. He's probably going to die here, but someone stepped in and said enough is enough. Could she fight in his place? Both observe without understanding. A new individual has entered the discussion. This person, obviously, her sister, does not know her. The scum asks why do that. Ranking student in the class like Maki Racine, the newcomer cannot explain the details to me since they are both her colleagues. She would like them to do it in Miami. So can they achieve it? Opposing this person would be problematic. Our protagonist doesn't respond and looks to the side. His attacker changed his expression. Fine if she insists. And as for the sister of his sins, he will remember her now. The scum leaves angry. And hey, it was really scary because Kira is such a strong person. Ranked number 2 in their class, a pretty girl wearing metal armor. Following a curse, she became obese and ugly again. That's why she wears all this gear to hide it. Is her weight the reason she called them colleagues? The girl talks to the guy she's interested in. She said it was a good job. He and his sister are very brave. His words are enough to give the boy hope. Good now. The girl wishes them goodbye. She plans to return to her occupation. After a short while, our protagonist collapses to the ground. A person came closer. She would be crying and said that she was really sorry and thanked him with all her heart. Our protagonist observes him giving him a hug. Now we might as well go somewhere else. His sister confirms. After some time, the two went outside. Our protagonist knows it's a little late to ask that. But why did she come back so quickly? Well, she didn't show up at the guild at all, wait yet. She already knew that middle schoolers weren't allowed in dungeons. After all, she also wants to become an adventurer. The boy listened carefully. But then why were you so stubborn? She just wanted some attention. After all, Neeson had been cold towards her since the opening ceremony. He even stopped calling her name. But it is true that lying like that is not done. So she's still sorry. Our protagonist heard his sister's words, but he shakes his head for no reason for interfering like this, and surely caused by Putin's feelings. His little sister means everything to him, contrary to what the game's storyline suggests. Could it be that this guy actually jumped rather benevolently when our protagonist thought that? He felt a little bad for borrowing her body without her consent. The boy apologizes. He was just busy with adventure school. They will make sure to give him more attention. But in exchange, his beloved hottie doesn't have to do dangerous things. Okay, Buto would have reacted that way, right? The girl says yes, smiling. It seems that everything is back to normal. Now we might as well go home, right? Cannon should return there before him. But what about Honeycomb? Well, he can already enter dungeons. So, he wants to take advantage of the remaining time to improve his level. After some time, our protagonist announces that he has arrived home. His parents notice the state his ODA has found himself in compared to 2 days ago. He is clearly injured. Is everything all right? Does it hurt? But the boy replies that there is no problem. Besides, Kano seems to really be sulking at the girl and says that she is bored all day long. But there's nothing she can do about it anyway. Only his brother is allowed to have fun. The boy has difficulty understanding his behavior. Oh, she really seems to be mad at him. His brother then makes him a promise that he will take him to the dungeons one day. Wait, seriously? Well, if she wants to go to adventure school, it will become inevitable. But his expression changes instantly. It was obvious she wanted to go now. The mother comes closer saying the food is ready. Once at the table, the protagonist thinks back to his goal. A memory resurfaces. The boy screams that he is really sorry. This one prostrates himself before the scum. What is that? Obviously, all the students are unpleasant towards those in the class. The way he came to bother her earlier is part of it. They did everything they could to get the weak to drop out, but their efforts came to naught when the number 2 ranked player intervened. There is still a problem. It's about the fact that he dared to rebel in front of everyone's eyes in order to avoid reprisals. He will have to act so pitifully that it becomes embarrassing to be around him. Our protagonist says he lost his temper because he's in front of his little sister. He wanted to impress her. That's why he doesn't care about rumors. All he wanted was for him to be forgiven. But the scum asks to speak less loudly. He has no bad intentions. He will not shy away, he will not challenge anyone. It doesn't represent anything. He is ready to take this kind of position. It can be said that it takes courage to act in such a pitiful way that follows it without making a fuss. The boy says it's okay. His goal is not to have a good life within this guy. The first thing he needs to do is investigate his transportation here. He wishes to return to his previous world and also to treat it with love despite the situation. And he wants to protect this family. And by the way, they will make sure to pay back later for stealing his existence. From tomorrow, classes will finally start in practice. His short-term objective is to increase his level. He will be able to do things as long as he has power. And thinking about the events that will happen afterwards. He only wants to gain more power in order to protect himself and his family. This is why he especially does not want events that are not in the game to appear. The next day, a familiar-looking girl is walking. The house bell rings. Says it's this person again. Who can she speak well? Our protagonist walks towards the front door, and once he opens it, he finds himself in front of Iceberg Rue. The two then look at each other in silence for a few seconds. What is this story? How did they end up in a dojo together? According to Butao's memory, before entering school, he and Kaoru exchanged a mysterious promise. Our protagonist is walking, and so is the girl. It's kind of weird, but in truth, Kaoru is probably the one who hates this situation the most. She surely remains faithful to her commitments out of obligation. Maybe he should try talking to her if it ever happened. Would he have spoken more about this? A topic should be found as the two move forward in thought. Says she heard about the rumors that he was beaten by a slime. This surprises the boy. Long hair bastard. The girl has just stopped and turning around. She apologizes to him. No. They formed a group, so she won't be able to join hers within her body. An unpleasant feeling surprises him. Uto is reacting negatively, but he is right. Kaoru joined the group very early. Besides, she already calls him Yuma. Our protagonist feels pretty bad for his dear neighbor. But the fact that things progress exactly as in the game remains favorable. As for his position, the boy is preparing to enter the class. Oh no, there it is. Hold on. Did he hear correctly? A student comes closer. He heard that he was beaten by an ace slam and saw his characteristics. Surely it must be him, right? His comrades can't even believe that losing on the first floor is possible, that it could well have been the course of the fight. In any case, it is certain that he is the weakest of the weak. Kaoru realizes the inappropriate behavior of his students at ActionToon, that his friends are asked not to say that. This student is respected within this room. This is why, in silence, settles down. The boy apologizes. He shouldn't take all this to heart. Everyone is only nervous because of what happened on Friday, and that includes his case. It's true that Guillaume, within an X, the player takes his point of view by default, and now he has become a character in his own right. We feel her paying attention. He might act differently than in the intended story. We must therefore avoid acting without thinking. A voice thinks he's slowing everyone down, even though Akeji defended him. For this guy sure is trouble. He's acting so stupid in front of Class D. Why don't we start calling him Muto? The boy observes, surprised. A human once again repeats not to take it seriously. Yeah. Within his mind, our protagonist thinks this is stranger than the focus of the original storyline. He was supposed to call himself Tao long after. Could it have been Caracas that intervened? But apart from that, he really doesn't feel like he belongs, as he said last week. Students will need to form groups before heading into the dungeons. This is why they plan to give them all an opportunity. In other words, they will show up again. Our protagonist thanks Mora and Essency at the center of his mind. While the order will be according to their rank. It starts with Akeji the boy. Immediately, the main character gets up from his chair and introduces himself as Akeji Yuma. He comes from Tokyo East Middle School. The weapon he uses is a one-handed sword. He therefore wishes to become a warrior. Then, it's Ayaharu's turn and little by little, the students introduce themselves one after the other. Our protagonist thinks today is really bad. He didn't say anything outside of East. He kept a low profile so as not to change the story. But he must in the world create a group. For that, you don't have to be more cheerful. And finally, Narumi Saudi. He uses another weapon. It is very inspiring, please and thank you. Within the class, a very awkward silence ensued. Kaoru cannot bear such shame, and the teacher only closes his eyes. Good. They will now move on to their orientation. They will also be able to visit the buildings around the guild after being promoted. As they leave the class, the students introduce themselves and ask if they would like to join their group. Other protagonists, meanwhile, are frozen in the same position, like a statue. In the end, he just gave up. Working solo and may not be bad. Finally, the students are walking down the halls, and the class dunce has just caught up with them. This is the queen. They can train their skills and adjust the strength of the mechanisms. This is the infirmary. A priest is still on site. They will have to go here for dungeon or even training injuries. Finally, the instructor imagines that most of them have already entered the dungeons once, but walking within the first and second floors. When beginning their apprenticeship, require company. This is why they want them all to form groups of 3 or 5 people, walls and regimes. Our protagonist would like to kill him right now. This way, they will be able to easily find it if they ever get lost. Well, these are just formalities. Let them gather in the square in front of the guild within 1 hour. If ever they need, they can also go to the cafeteria to eat. Everyone starts talking among themselves before finding the right teammates. It's true, he's not the only one who's worried. Everyone rushes to form a group. He all wants to level up. The boy gets pushed around. Muto blocks the way. He too will have to do his best as a group with Buto. Wouldn't that be some kind of joke? A girl says she's not interested, sorry. Already complete. It sucks. Nobody wants him, it's no use. He can't find anyone. They made their group based on relationships, but the boy imagines that's normal. Life at school will greatly affect life as an adventurer. They don't have time to hang out with a failure like him. Girls try to approach the main character. But it's useless, because someone has already made their group and others know that they are being invaded by girls. Our protagonist is so jealous. But wait, did he just decline? What could he possibly be doing? Why does he get closer to humans? Narumi calls out. Does he seriously want to make his team? Would he have had a pledge or something? He should stop laughing. It is true that he wants to have a member of excellent groups, but if he continues to interact with them, the history he knows about him will be shattered into pieces. The only reason he is still alive in this world is because of the knowledge he possesses in Akeji, that if the actions he takes change the history of an NEX, then he truly will have nothing left. In this world, our protagonist thanks him for his offer, but within his mind, the boy wonders if he has a reason to refuse. He would like to use Kaoru as an excuse, but she might be angry with him. Plus, she looks in their direction. She was supposed to team up with AKA. That's why the boy hopes that she can rid him of him. For the girl imagines that they are really the only ones left. Could she join their group? No way. And here's how they ended up in such a situation. Our protagonist wonders what could have been going through his mind. Kaoru wasn't supposed to try to avoid him. Finally, since he is in the same group, he can ask questions about the main character's situation, right? But Kaoru already seems to be talking to Yuma, and obviously, she gives Buto a cold look. He better not do anything stupid with his group member. Obviously, she would react like that. In reality, NEX's original goal would have quickly become jealous of the main character, and she would have attacked Kaoru because she wanted to stop him. Well, only if it was the true Tao. The leader of the group speaks to Narumi-kin. Did he, by any chance, want to say something? It's true that this guy is always kind. The boy thinks back to recent events. Kaoru is watching. Better to prevent her from being too suspicious of him. You should also not act too differently, otherwise it will be suspicious. Our protagonist asked anyone why he wants to become an adventurer in the first place. The main character seems to think for a few moments. Kaoru observes him carefully. Akeji is about to respond, and he imagines it is out of admiration. For example, when he saw the adventurers when he was young. He only exists inside a TV, but he always thought, what if that was him? That's why he thinks it's out of admiration. But in reality, he apologizes for not being able to give more concrete answers. Our protagonist's eyes open wide at Akeji. Uma was only an existence through which players interacted, but within this world. This guy himself said that his reasons aren't that laudable. However, even with the power difference, he managed to maintain his composure. However, he has only just been enrolled in this high school. It's not about character. Our protagonist would like to support him as a human. That's why he contradicts him. To be honest, he thinks his words are admirable. Kaoru didn't expect it, and Mara, he acted totally differently. The main character thinks he is exaggerating. After a while, they arrive on the second floor of the dungeon. With that, the orientation is complete. From this stage, they will be able to hunt as they wish, whether with their group or elsewhere. Tomorrow, they will return to their usual class. So, they have no interest in being late. Okay, well, the boy plans to make up for lost time on Saturday. Better to go with a weapon. But a voice speaks to Narumi that won to Guichin. He explains that they will go to the third floor if it is good for him. Would he like to join their group during the previous evening in the Aya Pavilion? It's what? Ru is in complete relaxation. She is currently taking her bath, but eventually opens her eyes. The girl gets up after leaving the bathroom. She is now in the living room, but something catches her eye. The terminal appears to display a notification. This one comes from Sakurakawa. When Landy arrived at Narumi's house, a person rings the doorbell. The door has just opened. This is the sister of our protagonist, and her look is rather strange. Kaoru wishes Kano good morning, shy. Hi. She heard that he was hospitalized. But the sister replies that Oni is fine. Seriously? Was he hurt? He is doing very well. The girl leaves immediately, calling her brother. This person came again. Kaoru is surprised by her behavior, but thinking about it, she has been acting cold to her OTA since summer vacation. So the girl imagines that it's natural for someone off camera to act like that. A person is about to open the door in turn. This is none other than another protagonist. Good morning. The girl would like to cancel the magical marriage contract. It is bad for them to continue to act caring. This negatively affects their progress. The magic contract they wrote back then, Kaoru wants to put an end to it, but by saying this directly, he will surely act stubborn. She remembers it like it was yesterday, but put it off again. Oda thinks it will be more efficient to go to school together. No, of course, if it is decided, they will do it like that. How is this more effective? The girl plans to get rid of this promise once and for all. But our protagonist has no real idea of the situation. Kaoru says they are leaving. However, he hadn't even finished his breakfast. The girl walks in front, followed by her childhood friend, or rather her so-called fiancé since the opening ceremony. The behavior of its OTA is strange. It's like he always acts with certainty. It is completely different from the start of the vacation. Why didn't she answer his call yesterday? Well, she's studied, so her studies are more important than her childhood friend. No, that's not what she meant. He has completely stopped calling her, and no longer ogles at her like he used to. Do people change so easily? Is he really no longer interested in her, or maybe he's just putting on an act? In this case, you might as well test it. She heard that he got beaten by Slim. The boy heard his words. Sorry, but Yuma doesn't know anyone. They formed a group, so they won't be able to join his. After these words, the girl turns around and does not intend to look back. Oh well, okay, that's cool. R is happy for her. It's reassuring to see that she gets along well with someone who knows Kaoru. He doesn't believe it for a second. Or he's not a person who can hide things like that, but he's definitely more interested in her. If so, she should be happy. But the girl has just entered the class and her gaze shifts towards the problem student. One of their comrades intervenes. Apparently he got beaten by a slam. Kaoru observes the situation. Based on the characteristics, it must be him, right? It's so ridiculous, but Manga could beat it in a slam. The students wonder how he could have lost. In any case, he is the worst of the bad. The girl sighs. She has no choice but to intervene. The student is about to interrupt, but one person thinks their classmates shouldn't say things like that. This is rubbish. Another poop deacon, and this one approached the rejected student with a friendly look. And obviously this isn't the first time she's seen this. This hero is never afraid to face the problems facing Kodai Yuma. Since that day, she has wanted to team up with someone like him. But there is a problem, something that prevents him from doing what he wants with the magical contract. Until she cancels it, it will be impossible to love someone freely. It's all really pathetic. Deviates the content of the contract. She only has a vague memory of it, and especially of the punishment it could well have been. The line about not following the terms. Later, at the entrance to the guild, Kaoru crouched down to inspect the rental weapons, but a voice caught her attention. This is Akechi Yuma, his name. Anaya, is that it? Is not it? He saw it in the registration list. So would she like to come to his group? Why she? Because she was the first to raise her voice against the class. This statement was enough to convince her. The girl who said she would go with him. There was no punishment within the magical contract. It's not that she hates it or not, but she can concentrate more when he's not around. A boy knows they're motivated and all, but he shouldn't stray too far from the ranged fighters. This is Tachi D. Naoto, an aspiring magician. Another student explains that she can heal all serious wounds, so you shouldn't fight too far. Otherwise, it will be difficult for her to be useful. It features Senju Sakura as an aspiring priestess. Obviously, Akechi acts hastily. His fight against Kariya is in a month. This impending battle has surely remained on his mind since the opening ceremony. Judging by his aura, Korea's level must be around 10 every time he levels up. Their skills are increased. Additionally, it becomes possible to choose a profession after a certain point. Like for example the samurai or. Currently, all their jobs are useless. Better to gain levels quickly in order to change what they have. They don't have much time, but with them, Kaoru thinks it's doable. They also have a secret weapon. This is why the girl imagines that she is the only one left. So could she join their group within her mind? She imagines that the presence of her Yuta during this short period is no longer that important. Either way, his contract is useless. After some time, there they are walking in the cave. The two teammates chat while other protagonists observe them. And this one tries to speak. But Kaoru addresses Yuma to avoid them getting involved in the conversation otherwise. About his performance in the dungeon. There are certainly things they can still improve. The girl who smiles has a little difficulty hiding her embarrassed look. The leader understands. For maybe like Kotaro is saying, speaking of him, watched the broadcast last night. He cleaned the 31st floor. Yes, he succeeds every time. It's probably thanks to his way of commanding troops from a distance. But in the center of his mind, the girl is surprised that he is changing the subject so quickly. Kaoru just figured out if I liked it or knows about their current relationship, he might react badly. He acted with consideration towards his UTA, which lost to Slim. Following this boy instead was truly the right choice. Did Narumi-kun want to say something? Kaoru wanted to avoid that. Her lover noticed that the problem source was about to speak. Our protagonist asks him a very ordinary question. Why did he want to become an adventurer in the first place? Well, Kaoru listens. Conversation as Akagi is about to respond. He imagines it's out of admiration. His words touched his heart deeply. She also wanted to say that she too. But no. Even though she tries to distance herself from his haughtiness, it would be inappropriate to speak passionately to her new love in front of his eyes. A little later, the main character asks his group members to listen to him. They want to invite someone. What do they think about it? It's about his or Tadashi, says Naoto, or honoring Uma's decision, but welcoming the guy who got beaten by Slim like that. They wonder what their classmates will think, and also. The most important thing is to know now Masao's opinion, right? It's true. The leader will think about all this only after inviting him. After all, he wants his acolytes to be able to help him. He knows this could cause problems for all three of them. But everyone knows that none of that matters as long as they can beat Korea. His teammate imagines he is right. Kaoru thinks that if he had asked her, she would have said that she hates the idea. But she also doesn't want to talk about her relationship with her or her childhood friend, who seems to have suddenly lost interest in her. He will surely believe in Yumi. After all, from his perspective, if Southall isn't going to stand in the way of their love, there's no reason for him to decline the offer, right? So does he want to join their group? For what? Why someone like him? This reaction surprises Koharu. Pardon. Even if he didn't expect it, the leader still intends to convince him. Then, with a serious expression, he explains that it's because he complimented him. The first person to raise their voice against Class D was Kaoru. But even if he didn't help him during the process, he still contributed to the outcome. For he managed to find the right words. Thanks to him, Akagi has much more confidence in her dream. That's why. And then the first thing he has to do is fight Korea. This guy is level 11. He is a monster that even a bear can't fight. We must not add dead weight like him, he wishes. Validation from their teacher. If so, then he is on the wrong track. He's not the type of person to kick someone out just because they're in the class. Losing the fight will not result in exclusion. So, no need to show off your prowess next to your worthlessness to avoid this fate. Why did he invite him to his group? He'll just be miserable in her company. He only does tasks within his group. people will make fun of him even more. Kara really doesn't understand anything. For what? Why does he start talking like that? He wasn't capable of saying things like that, but he changed. He no longer gives her the same attention as before. She can no longer find a reason to reject him. Maybe she's the problem. Could this be his refusal to accept the fact that he has changed? Was thinking that he was coming between her and Yuma just a misunderstanding? The girl begins to realize that she has been looking down on him for some time. She treated her childhood friend with contempt and underestimated her. A little later, within the dungeon, our protagonist is pushed back and he rolls on the ground for several meters. The boy gets up and holds his gun. Mother, focused on the cradle, is a monster with a menacing appearance. The adventurer starts to rush, but the creature is up to something. The human's eyes widen, and he manages to avoid the enemy attack. Our protagonist has lost his balance, but he instantly regains his composure, and, holding his weapon firmly, leaves a big blow on the skull of his enemy, who is reduced to dust. The boy landed on the ground without the slightest expression. Obviously, he has just moved to level 4. It has now been a week since he was transported. In the end, he decided to explore solo. It's much better if he wants to stay away from the main storyline. This place is already good, but since he's on level 4, he plans to try to go down to the 5th floor. Our protagonist descends the stairs of a large tower, but still, he is finally on level 4. The 5th floor once you have passed the 4th. Leveling up becomes more and more complex because of this. Adventurers who advance past this level may be considered professional, but this is only on the surface. It turns out that on the one hand, and many tips for players, the boy is moving forward and is close to a crevasse. These techniques, our protagonist stands in front of a bridge placed above the void. The nickname for this strategy is called the poor man's trap. First, you have to cross this bridge. Then you have to provoke the orcs. Just wait for him to use his battle cry skill to attract his friends. You have to be careful not to get caught, and once you cross the bridge, all you have to do is cut the ropes. Fall damage received by orcs will count as if it had been given by the adventurer. A technique for gaining immense amounts of experience. The boy thinks for a moment, and it's getting pretty late. Today then he's just going to inspect the area. But he's certainly looking forward to tomorrow. There is also something else. Something else is here. What he is currently coveting is also a great trick, to be honest. This is the reason for his coming. The boy notices something. This is where it is possible to cross the wall. The player now walking into a hidden area at this location where the portal is. If it's exactly like in the game, then it should be connected with the adventurer's school. By using it, not making the trip will save him 4 hours of additional hunting. As a student, he is very grateful to have found it, but it remains strange. Why does no one use it, and not just this place? It's the same for the slim room on the 1st floor, and it's the same for the best hunting spots on the 2nd and 3rd floor. All of these locations are empty. These areas are really useful for players like him, especially if the characters in that world haven't really heard of them. Well now, we might as well try to activate this portal. Our protagonist is just going to use the auto launch, and once that's done, the boy goes through a digital zone. This one looks behind him. Activation is successful. And as he looks ahead again, as energy flows through his hand, the boy activates the other end mechanism, which completely changes his environment. And now he finds himself in the middle of a room. The adventurer crosses the corridors and climbs the stairs. Now he is walking in the middle of the courtyard. The coordinates it was sent to are the same as those in the game. This is the basement of the adventurer's school, since they don't have class today. Few people are here. Better to go home before you get noticed. But as the boy steps forward, a voice asks what he is doing here.